Developing critical thinking skills is perhaps the essence of a university education, wrangling with ideas and considering various sources and viewpoints. Now, enter the data analysis capabilities of AI. You can see the conundrum, and we're talking about it today on Across the Fence. Hello, Vermont. Here's a little educational trivia. When did students first start using Cliff Notes? Those little black and yellow pamphlets summarizing great works of literature so you didn't have to read the book. The answer? 1958. Handheld calculators? Those were ubiquitous by the 1970s. And I guess the point is that in education, shortcuts aren't new, and neither are fears that taking shortcuts compromises learning. But AI also feels different. Perhaps because its shortcut potential is several orders of magnitude beyond what was offered by workarounds like Cliff Notes. And AI capabilities are rapidly evolving. So, how do universities respond? Joining me to talk about teaching, learning, and AI at UVM is Susan Marie Harrington. Dr. Harrington is a professor of English and the director of UVM's Writing in the Disciplines program, which offers workshops and resources for faculty and students throughout the year to help them responsibly navigate the use of AI. Dr. Harrington, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's so nice to have you here. Okay, so first off, tell us a little bit about the Writing in the Disciplines program at UVM. What's the mission?
Well, our mission is to ensure that writing is a meaningful part of students' education by supporting faculty. People go to graduate school to study neuroscience, biology, food sciences, calculus, whatever. And while writing is a really important part of the work in really every field, not everybody feels like they're a writing teacher. And the WID program helps people realize that, yes, everybody is already a writing teacher, and we help build confidence strategies, kind of merging the expertise that comes from my field of writing studies with the expertise that other people bring, so that the writing work in classes and also the writing that faculty do feels like something wonderful as a learning opportunity.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Yes, I think we can all use help sharpening our writing skills. And it is very true that, I mean, sometimes faculty, you're an expert in something else. It doesn't necessarily mean that that comes along with the comfort and the fluency of producing great writing. Right. Okay, well, but how did Writing in the Disciplines become the primary producer of programming around AI at UVM? Like, what's the connection there?
Well, when ChatGPT first became broadly available to the public, it was really the first time that kind of generative AI, the chatbot where you could say, tell me about the history of public access television in Vermont.
It still blows my mind, all the things that you can do with it.
So that was a writing related thing. So immediately people were having questions like, what does this mean for my class? Like, can students put my homework questions in that, so it was the first time in my life breaking news was like, oh, I should call the Writing in the Disciplines program. So it was very writing related. So we started doing a lot of programming around writing and getting people together to talk, just first talk and react. And over the past 3 years, our programming has become much more nuanced, looking at different aspects of AI. And other units on campus are now starting to also offer more programming, more workshops, more conversations. But because the generative qualities of ChatGPT seemed so writing related, I think people naturally turned to us. And because UVM is a atmosphere in which if you want to do something, you go do it, we just jumped in.
You were like, we're just going to we're going to take the initiative here. Well, I think that also speaks to the evolution of AI over time, because ChatGPT, I'm always stunned that it only started in 2022. This isn't like it's been around for 10, 15 years, and yet already it is so ubiquitous and it seems like it's everywhere. But yeah, those first applications did feel very writing focused. Now it seems like it does so many more things. It's generating images and graphs, and it's summarizing data, and it's doing all these other things, but it did feel like it began in the world of writing. Well, how do you see AI impacting teaching, learning, and then we put it in our introduction, this idea of critical thinking?
It's complicated. Technological advances are always complicating and interesting in higher ed. And on the one hand, we're thinking hard about what does this, like, how is AI changing the world of work? How is it changing things that are happening in communities. How can we prepare students for the world that they're going to go out into? In terms of both what skills do they need as they get out there, but also how can our students go out to be the people who are going to be continuing to develop new technologies, critically thinking about technologies, critiquing new technologies and their applications.
Because whatever happens at the university, it's an entirely different situation in the world of work, right? Okay, keep going.
And how do we prepare people to make that transition? At the same time, there's a lot of you mentioned shortcuts at the beginning, and this is a very tempting shortcut. Right now, when I open any document with Adobe Reader, it says at the top, wow, that looks like a long document, no matter how long the document actually is. That looks like a long document. Would you like a summary? You know,
Google is even summarizing your email for you.
Exactly. So it's a real opportunity to clarify the basics with students and with our colleagues. Like, what are we trying to do in this class? Why is it important? Why is it relevant? What technologies can help you do that, and what is going to get in the way of your learning? Because some shortcuts are great and some shortcuts are not so great.
Yeah, some shortcuts save you time, some shortcuts save you cognition and learning all of the steps and being able to perform them yourself and make the connections yourself. So I feel like the world is dividing into AI disciples and AI skeptics, maybe even chicken littles. I think I have a little chicken little in me. Is that too black and white, do you think?
I guess I don't care. I think it is.
I love
really,
that. That's a perfect answer.
I think it is really important for us to have robust debate about how AI works, its impacts in the world, not just debate, but conversation and understanding. In our programs at WID, I really welcome people with a whole different array of attitudes, and in addition to the many workshops that we run about adapting your teaching in light of AI, we also offer a workshop on resisting AI that really highlights what are the reasons why there are reasons why people are really choosing to resist the use of AI in their work. Whether or not someone comes to that workshop and thinks, oh, I'm now going to be an AI resistor, I don't mind, but I feel like,
that's a critical thinking process
exactly,
too.
That engaging that breadth of opinion. We have students on campus, as well as colleagues, but I've heard from students a lot of really deep environmental concerns. They are worried about the impact of the data centers that are being constructed, and the water use and the power use that those data centers are driving, and they're really concerned about, like, is this something we should be doing? You know, and then at the same time, I have colleagues who are working and using different aspects of AI to do really cool climate change research, and so it's complicated. It's all complicated.
Really complicated.
And so I think having sharply divided points of view also creates a lot of middle ground where we can all learn from each other.
Well, that actually sort of touches on how writing in the disciplines, you call it WID, right?
I do.
Okay, so WID, I'm going to say WID because that's easier.
Yes.
WID also is pushing a concept they call AI literacy.
Yes.
And that encompasses all of those different tensions and complexity of AI, right?
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about
exactly. So when we talk about critical AI literacy, we have a cool little diagram, and in the center of that diagram is human values and judgment. So we're really trying to center the role of people in making all of the decisions about texts, because writing helps people get things done. The writing that we do, it circulates, it helps get things done. You sent me an email to invite me here, and then to give and then to give me the directions and the time, and that, so that got stuff done, right? So that was a very human thing. And so whether or not either of us were using AI to polish up the grammar in our email, which we probably weren't, but we could have.
I did think about my grammar actually when I was writing you.
It was a fundamentally human activity, and we wanted to center where the people involved getting what they needed out of it. And that happens on grander scales with reports and legislation and news and the scripts for your show. It's always about, can humans get what they need done in the world, and how does technology use that? So our critical AI literacy model invites people to learn a little bit about how AI works. Not everybody, some people want to be technical experts. My
Yeah.
colleagues in the sciences and computer science, I mean, they're all about the
They
history, the
really want you to know what it means that it's a large learning model.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
There's some of
okay.
the people who can build that. But I think everybody needs to understand that large learning models are trained off of things that are scraped from the internet, often pirated authors' works without compensation.
Yes.
And so I think everybody needs to know how that training happened on a general level, so you can understand also then a set of ethical concerns about what are the biases and what was in that. We don't know exactly what was in those training sets, but we can guess. It probably privileges a lot of American English, which means that AI output is not going to necessarily be matching the ways English is used in other parts of the world, for example. So there's like cultural biases in the way in which AI output is generated, and you need to be aware of that. People also need to be aware of what are the other kinds of ethical concerns that arise. The labor exploitation with the training models, environmental concerns.
The water, the electricity.
So there's a lot of even differential access to AI. There's a lot of AI tools that now have paid subscriptions, and so if some of our students have subscriptions to services because they can afford to pay for them and some of them don't, like that's creating inequities among the student body. So being aware of what are those ethical concerns so that you can figure out which ones are most important to you in your situation, which ones matter, how do you think about them. And then on the rhetorical side, which is just a fancy way of thinking about how do things work in context between my purpose as a writer, who's my audience, what's the setting, and so when and how is it appropriate to use AI? Like just because I can do something, should I do it?
Which is, I think, a big part of the question. We only have about a minute left.
Yes.
Which I think is really one of the biggest questions about this. Like that's the nugget, right?
Exactly.
Just because I can, do I? And that's critical thinking.
Exactly.
Right there all over again.
And we all need to make those choices for ourselves as teachers, as students, as writers, as people in the community. And so our critical AI model is trying to empower people to make good choices.
Well, Dr. Harrington, I knew this was going to be one of my favorite conversations. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank
a lot
you
of
for
complexity.
having me.
You've really shown a lot of light for us.
Thank you. Thank you.
As always, Vermont, thank you for learning and exploring with me today. And thanks to the team that makes Across the Fence possible. I'm Amy Finley. This is Across the Fence. Come back and let's learn and explore again tomorrow.